Here it is at the Barb and Gabby Campout. It's May. It's Friday morning. We've been having a great time, and we got some stuff to share. All right?
Great.
Who wants to go first?
So I think we should go with the 12 to 2 p.m. yesterday. Who had experiences from 12 to 2?
Reverb.
Pass it on to Rob.
Well, Tom made a good point when we were at the convention that, instead of go looking for them, how about you just sit there, get your Diet Pepsi, as he calls it, and let them come to you if they're inquisitive. So I thought, I got my Bluetooth speaker, my little iPod Nano. How about play some Blues Travelers? Because it's got some really interesting harmonica and stuff in there. So I went about, quarter past the bus, way back there where Patrick used to do his camping. And I'm playing the music, and Rainer came by, and then I was expecting Kevin and Mitch to come by, and I'd never seen them, but I kept hearing a snap, a loud crack. I look up, there's nothing there. And about into the Eagles, I was playing Blues Travels, and I played the Eagles. Then all of a sudden, this rock is just tumbling downhill. And I'm looking up there, and it wasn't like it was like cold and then the frost and it defrosted and it just fell down. It just rock about this big just down the hill. And I keep thinking I'm hearing people coming through, and then I come back here to camp. They're not here, so they obviously left. And I go down to the river, decide, because anybody can sit behind the fire. I wanted to sit by the river and see what's going on down there. So I'm down there having a nice time, just looking at the river. I'm almost falling asleep because it's kind of... And I kept hearing, I thought it was Kevin and Sandy and one other person up here at camp. Sometimes we can be loud and boisterous sometimes, I come up here, they're not even around. So somebody's out here mimicking us very well.
Wow.
And that was what time?
Noon to 2 to maybe 3:34 over there.
And where did you hear the Kevin and Sandy voices?
Down at the river. Down past where
At
you
what
guys all
time?
have your tents. I just went over and across.
Yeah. Well, right in this spot, a few years ago, we had my dad's wife, Juanita, was being mimicked.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly her voice, and she was in the trailer sleeping when it happened.
So yeah, I could tell it was your voices, but I couldn't tell what the heck you were saying. But and then you two, and then somebody else that I can't remember exactly who it was, but it was somebody from here, or at least somebody mimicking somebody from here. So I come back here and there's like nobody in camp. I'm like, okay, all right.
All right, cool. Thanks, Rob.
And then Peter, you had something around
There
that
you
time frame. 2:30. So the 2 to 4 group.
Hi, I guess we're on to 2 to 4. So I was after I had lunch, I was sitting in my campsite around 2:30, and I heard what sounded like 3 whoops from across the creek up on the hill there. And so I thought about it, and it didn't sound like owl calls, and it was in the middle of the afternoon.
Wow.
But they were whoop, whoop, whoop,
Wow.
and that was all.
I was calling
Very cool.
owls.
What, you were calling out?
I was calling owls yesterday afternoon. What time was that?
About that time, and I was playing my flute too, and we actually got an answer.
We got a whistle.
We got a whistle back.
Did you whistle back, Peter?
No, it was, where were you doing it?
At the RV.
Can we give the microphone over
Okay,
so we
so
can
that
hear?
was probably you. All right.
We didn't whoop though.
No
We
whooping.
just out called and played the flute.
Well, it could have been your version of an owl call.
It's for you.
Oh, no. What I heard was there was no cadence like that.
Okay. I'm
So
really
maybe
good
it was
owl
something
caller.
different. Maybe it was them answering you.
Yeah. I heard
Wow.
something did whistle and then she started playing her flute. I heard a whistle.
Teresa?
Give her the
We,
microphone.
yeah, we can't hear you.
So
Do an owl call.
woohoo, woohoo, woohoo. So I was calling the owls and Tina was playing the flute and we did get a whistle.
So 4 to 6, anything?
I'll do something.
Okay.
Barbara and I were here, but I'm not exactly sure what time it was, and there was a really loud yell from over that way.
Okay.
Yeah. Ah!
In the afternoon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Up
Yep.
the hill there.
Yeah.
At the hill.
Okay, I think we're up to the point in time where we split up into a group that went on top of the mountain.
Okay.
So why doesn't somebody, representative from that group, tell us what happened?
Yeah, Ashley.
Over your way, sis.
Went up this road to go all the way to the top and check out the sky there. We were able to get up to that area and actually found 2 campers up there, a husband and a wife who had a little nice lean-to happening. We set up our chairs and started to watch the sky, check out the area. A few people went down the road a little bit, and interestingly in the valley, which is super dark, you can't really see what is going on down there, but there was this point of light, and that point of light was extremely established. It was there. It wasn't in the beginning moving around. It didn't look like headlights from a car. There weren't beams. It was a central point of light. But that light would get bigger, it would get smaller, and then a secondary light would come up, and it was red. And then that one would morph and shape. They would come together, they'd split apart. At one point, the white light was just there, and it started moving towards us at a very high rate of speed. And kind of like, you know, it wasn't on a road or anything. It was coming kind of straight towards us up at the top. Then it stopped, and then it was back down to where it was originally at. The red light showed up at one point and lit up the whole area that it was in. And then there was a red hue along all the trees that were near these 2 points of light. And then that faded down to nothing. So we watched that for a good 10 minutes of constant activity, and then we're like, all right, well, let's go back over to the chairs and just continue to sky watch. And a huge show happened in the sky. Definitely at least 10 up to 15, 16 different types of unidentified flying objects were witnessed. There were a few that came in tandem, where there was one on top, one on the bottom, and flying at the same speed. We watched another one follow an airplane, because we were watching the airplanes come through too, but these central dots of light were very different. There were flashes, single flashes that were happening in the sky. I think someone saw also the streak. I call it the streak, which is where you see a white light that has a distinct point A and point B, not a shooting star that comes in, fades and fades away, but just a boop like that. I've seen that quite a few times, but it was seen again last night up there. There were other unidentified flying objects that were coming in, getting brighter, dimming out, doing a lot of characteristics that planes do not do, but unidentified objects do. Okay. So as we were also up there, the guy who was camping, he came over to us, introduced himself, and asked if anyone had some headache medicine for his wife, who was having a migraine, bad headache at the time. So Claire found some bear and was able to hand it off to him and asked him, hey, well, have you had any Sasquatch activity up here? It's a pretty squatchy area. And he said, kind of cocked his head and said, funny you should mention it, because last night we were up here, and this road has, you know, a pretty steep decline edge that goes down, and he said down in that ridge area, the valley, there was a massive crashing that happened, and his first thought was that it was elk, but then he never heard other noises associated with elk. It was just a super loud crashing through the trees. And yeah, along with those other 2 points of light, there was a lot of owls. There was a lot of hoots happening, a lot of owl activity when we were standing there watching the light, but just a lot of anomalies. A lot of anomalies.
Cool.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, so anything else happened between 8 and 10?
Okay, I have something to share, and a few people stayed behind. We did a little reenactment on the shadow person that I saw in my tent the night before and the light that backlit it, and we tried our best to recreate it. First, we ruled out Heidi coming out of her tent. I got into my cot in my tent, and Heidi walked out with using her flashlight, her little light and went to her car and back. I couldn't make out her light from in my tent at all, so we ruled that out. So while I was in the tent, we had somebody come up and try and cast a shadow of a full human figure on the front of my tent. And first we discovered that, standing back, if you put a light behind somebody, it just makes a really long shadow that has no features. It's indistinguishable. So while I'm in the tent and I'm looking at people trying to cast the shadow, it's like, nope, that's not working. There's no legs. It's too blurry. And it kept getting better. It's like, okay, that's a little better. Maybe a little more this way, a little more this way. And it kept coming like into focus until it was finally very close to what I had seen. I was a little shocked at what was going on outside to get us to that point. Would somebody that was outside like to share that? How you had to do it?
At first we started with Richard being the person because he's 6 foot. But we found when we put the light behind Richard, his head wasn't in view of the tent, it was just the trunk of his body. And then we tried with me, and I'm 5'3". But if you were any far back, the car had your legs, and even my head was too high. So I get closer to the tent with the light behind me. Richard, who's 6 foot, had to stretch his arms as high as he could above his head, holding more than one light source. And as I got closer, you couldn't see my head. We swapped for Heidi, who's a couple inches smaller, and that's when Barb says, "That's it, that's close, that's the best I've seen."
Yeah, so while I'm in there and I'm looking, there's the rainfly kind of makes, the triangular shape on the top over the door. And what I saw the night before last wasn't cut off it was in full view. There was nothing was blocked off by that rainfly. So we got Heidi into position, although her head was still kind of touching it. I was really shocked to discover that to get her into focus, she was literally inches outside from the tent wall. I mean, inches. And my car was only just a few feet from the front of the tent. So the light source had to come almost directly down above her to create the shadow on the wall. And I took a picture from the inside. One of the things that was different after I looked at the photo, you could see that Heidi had a neck where it came in, and that was not something that I saw. Heidi's arms were considerably shorter than the shadow that I saw.
I'm grateful for both of those things.
Yeah, having a neck is a good thing. Yeah, at least for us.
And she also, you could see her clothing. You could see along her sides where her pant line was and where her shirt was, and there was none of that on the shadow that I saw. It was just a straight, smooth line down the sides. So one of the things that I saw after the light moved was the hooked hand-shaped shadows that were kind of moving. Well, at first it freaked me out because it looked like a giant hand shadow. But then I quickly realized, okay, this is limbs. These are branches that the light's shining through. Well, the only limbs and branches back there are high. I mean, they're up there a ways. So we tried to recreate that by going into the woods, from the side, and the only way that we could get the light to shine on there, it still it looked like the right branches, it had the same effect, but it shined also on the side of the tent, and we could never find the exact hooked one. So looking up into the trees, I think somebody found, Yvonne, you found where it looked like there was a limb up there that would give that.
No, that was me.
Oh, that was you. Okay. You want to tell us about it?
I just looked up to find out which branches could have caused the shadow, and I actually found them. I think it looked like exactly what she had explained, look over her tent. But it was way up there, and the light had to be coming from at the perfect angle to hit the top of her tent.
Yeah. So, yeah, we've ruled out that it was any of us, and we've ruled out that the light source was at ground level.
Right, Richard did that.
Richard doesn't talk. It's okay. But yeah, he held up the light at close to 7 feet to shine it down on you,
Right.
to get that kind of a light and a shadow. But for the limbs, the light must have been considerably higher. So we're thinking maybe we could put together some kind of a pole or something to get a light source even higher and try it again tonight. So from what it sounds like, you know, nobody was outside to witness it, but from what we're putting together, we're thinking that possibly there was an orb up in the tree that was putting off a very bright light, because even though we were using our brightest flashlight, it still wasn't as intense as the light that was behind the figure and the limbs that night. So if something had been up in the tree, shining through the limbs and shining down on the figure that was there, that would explain it all. So
I have a step ladder. You could probably get up 7 feet with a step ladder.
yeah, we're going to need to go a little higher than that.
Richard up higher.
Yeah. So
Or you're 6'3".
We'll sacrifice a Richard.
Kevin.
Sacrifice a Richard.
I volunteer Sandy to be on Kevin's shoulders.
Yeah, there you go.
on the ladder,
That'll work.
holding a pole.
With a pole with your iPod.
Things not to do when camping.
Okay, we're still here.
Stop moving, Sandy.
So what happened then after all of that? Who else? After
Around between 1 and 1:15, I guess, I saw a couple of lights, as though someone had a pen light and turned it on and just moved it for about a second and turned it off.
Wow.
Definitely not me.
And one was over there. I guess that's the direction of the latrine tent there.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, somebody going to the bathroom. But it looked like it was right at the first line of bushes. And I was sitting right here. So that happened, and then a few minutes later, I thought, okay, somebody's going to the bathroom. A few minutes later, I see another one over there, kind of between where Yvonne's tent is and the edge of the drop off there.
Wow.
And the same kind of thing. On, moves, off, and a very, very narrow point of light.
The white. It was a white light.
It was white,
Okay. Cool.
both of them.
Interesting. So how much time passed between the two lights?
10 or 15 minutes.
Okay. Wow. Cool.
And then we waited till 1:30 and went to bed.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Nope. All right. Well, I guess that wraps up our meeting. So we're going to have a great day and a great night. Hopefully we'll be back tomorrow morning with all kinds of interesting things to share with you. So, do you have something, Sandy?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Okay. That's it then. Thanks, everybody. He's got 2 new girls in his life.
I do, and they're cutesies. They're cutesies. Yes, they are. They're the cutie patooties. You're the cutie patooties.
no, you did great. Thank you. Are we gonna round up the empty water? We already put it in the board and
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We got some WWE moves coming on now. Yeah.